ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order on this Draft Day Friday. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling, joined now by VolQuest's on threes, Brent Hubbs. Talking NFL draft, some Vols transfer portal, maybe a little bit of Titans quarterback Cam Ward as well. Brent, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hope you all are doing well this morning.
We are good.
Ramon, that T-shirt you're wearing today is not a first-round draft pick shirt.
You know what? I made it long enough to buy this one, so hey, we're good now. I think. I think we're good now, Hubs. I think we're good.
Tennessee baseball.
Yeah, there we go.
I love it. Well, Brent, I know we'll get into a lot of Vols topics and NFL draft things and the like this morning with you, but was just curious with the big news, obviously, here in Nashville about Cam Ward yesterday joining the Tennessee Titans. Just what was your impression watching him just as a fan of college football and a guy who was on a team, Brent, that was competing with Tennessee for a lot of last season for one of those last spots in the college football playoff?
Well, I mean, he's a guy that wanted the moment, and I think that's the thing that stood out when they got into tight games. He's a guy who seemed to play well and wanted the moment. He made plays. He could improvise some things clearly. And again, I mean, I think it's about who you believe in and what we're hearing about what all the Titans turned down from a draft standpoint tells you how much they believe in Cam Ward. And he is a guy who has self-made in a lot of ways. I know he went through the portal, but here's a guy that was not highly recruited. He's not highly decorated. He sort of bet on himself everywhere he went. And, you know, he made a great decision by not coming out in the draft last year. I mean, where would he have been selected last year given that quarterback draft? And the fact that he came back for college has been obviously a big storyline. And he got better as a player, and he was rewarded for not only getting better, but the quarterback draft pool being what it was to put himself as the first number one overall pick. So great move by him and his team to stay another year. And obviously the Titans got someone they believe they can build around that franchise, and they've been looking for that at that position since Steve McNair.
Well, Brent, transitioning from one unheralded quarterback who finds himself in a new starting position, let's talk about another one potentially, and Joey Agalar, who commits to Tennessee earlier this week. How confident are you, Brent, that Joey Agalar is Tennessee's week one starting quarterback? How would you kind of handicap that competition against Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre at this point?
Well, I mean, I think he has a leg up because he has experience, but I think he's got to go earn it. And I think there's a couple of things you have to do to earn it, Will. One, he's obviously got to learn this offense, and it's different than an offense he's played in. At App State, they did do some pistol stuff. There's some spread concepts, a lot of over routes and some vertical things that will tie in to some of the things that Josh Heupel's offense does. So there's some familiarity, not a ton. They don't have the big receiver splits, but there are some things there. So he's got to learn that, first and foremost to have a chance. I think the other thing, too, when you come in at this time of the year, you have to come in the right way, and you have to come in and win your locker room. And one of the things I'll give Joey credit for and his team credit for is they've not been on a media parade since any of this has happened. And I think, if you were coming in January and you had 6 or 7 months to establish yourself and try to go win the job, you can handle that probably a little different than you can handle it right now. I think being more quiet and just showing up, going to work, and winning your teammates over is a lot more important than being on a media campaign or being all over social media talking about this. Just head down, go work, because you got to get a lot of things done in short order. And one of the things you have to do is you got to win your locker room over. So you don't come in getting out of the limo. You don't come in riding on the white horse that you're the savior for anything. You come in, win over your teammates, and go win the job. And he's going to have to go do that. I think based on his experience, it makes sense that he's the guy, but he's got to go prove it. It's not a guaranteed lock, and I don't think he can treat it that way.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3 with us this morning, discussing all things football, Vols, and in between. Hubbs, last night was a lot of guys, man, speaking about Cam Ward and others that benefited from the portal. Oregon's D-tackle, Cameron Ward did, Jackson Dart did. The list goes on and on and on, man. After watching it last night, is this where you think the coaches want to be able to put the transfer portal in college football? That, look, we're here to elevate you through the portal to get you to where you ultimately want to go and not just get paid in college the entirety of it.
Well, some of those guys moved to get paid. Okay. And so, I mean, you look at that, and there are people who were watching that last night going, see, there's nothing negative about transferring or going in the portal. It's about going to the right fit. And so, I mean, I think the portal's fascinating because on one hand, coaches absolutely despise the portal because you have to deal with so much drama and so many things 365 days out of the year. Okay. I mean, if you're an organization at the college level, and I don't care whether you have the GM title or you don't have a GM title, whatever, whoever you have responsible for roster management, that person has to be thinking today as the portal closes. He has to be thinking about, what do I have to be prepared for in December? What are the possibilities on my roster of somebody who might be looking to leave, somebody who might come and ask for more money? What is our budget? What is our plan? You have to be thinking about December right now if you're in charge of roster management with the portal stuff. Okay, that's separate from going out and getting high school recruits. I'm talking about managing your roster. You better be thinking about it right now, because I promise you there are kids on your roster right now who are thinking about it. And that's just part of the process that you have to deal with. So on that hand, coaches dislike the portal. On the other hand, you can go get immediate help. Where's Miami if Cam Ward is not on their roster? Right? I mean, they're a non-factor. They needed a quarterback to go with their roster to give themselves a chance to be a playoff team, and they would have been a playoff team most likely had they not lost to Syracuse. And so they went and did what they needed to. That's the benefit of the portal. You can't have one and not have the other, which is always why it's going to be a love-hate affair for coaches with the transfer portal.
No doubt about it, Hubs. And then speaking of the transfer portal, man, I tried with Big Larry, man, from time to time, Hubs. I will say that. But is he, and it's also Jacoby Thomas as of late, man, decisions to hop in, Hubs, and also what do you see the outcome of the Jacoby Thomas situation?
Well, we'll see what happens with Jacoby. I mean, I do think it sounds like there's an opportunity that he could possibly return. That's a little bit out of the norm of what we've seen with Josh Heupel. But we'll see what ultimately ends up happening there. I think the hard thing for kids 18 to 22 years old is making their own informed decision and not just going with someone who's telling them what to do because they think that person has more information. And what I mean by that is, are you all about a money grab? Are you trying to go get something? Are you looking at, hey, I like where I am right now. I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay in the moment with where my feet are, or am I going to go chase something else? And I think there's and I'm not going to rip on all agents because it's not fair, but there are a lot of agents who their whole thing with all of their clients, because they make more money off of it too, is if you go, I can get you more. And more is not wrong. Okay. We all want to make more money in this world. I don't care if you're putting a roof on a house today. I mean, you might go to a different place for $2 more an hour, right? We're all looking for more money. Everybody wants to make money. But I think when you're 18 to 22, you don't have enough life experience to really go, you know what? It's not always about how much more money I make next year. It's about playing a longer game. And I think that's the challenge that everybody is dealing with right now in the college landscape. Much like, college programs are trying to figure out the whole GM thing. I think college players are trying to figure out, greener pastures versus staying where I'm at right now. How much is my happiness worth versus what my bank account looks like? How much is my opportunity here worth? What versus what my opportunity might be worth somewhere else? And that's hard for someone that age. I didn't know what I wanted when I was 19 years old. My bank account was probably the most important thing to me at 19 because I was trying to put gas in the car and everything else. So I understand it. It's just they're living in a whole different world where they're having to sort through some things and some guys probably need to be more mature about it in the long run, Ramon.
Our friend Brent Hubbs joining us this morning on Arcade Dub, always sharing some good insight. And I'm curious to pick your brain on this one too, Hubbs. Since we're talking about the portal, we've seen teams like North Carolina, like Oklahoma, go ahead and get on that GM train. Do you feel like the Vols can be one of those teams that do that? Do you feel it's necessary?
Well, Caleb's great question. For the longest time, I said no. And I think you can do it without having a GM title. But I think the more you look at it, the more it makes some sense. And here's why I think you're going to see it more and more around the country. It's not necessarily about the title, but it's about having someone who is firmly in charge that creates the organization that you need. And I think that's the bigger thing that you have to have, whether it's a title, whether it's two guys, whether you do it, however you lay it out, the organizational part of it has to be paramount, and the communication of it has to be paramount. And what I mean by the organization part is what I was saying earlier. You have to work it year round. Roster management is not, okay, we're at the end of the year, what are we going to do with player X if he comes and asks for more money? You better already have that thought laid out, right? I mean, think about it. In the NFL for last night, think about how long the scouting department went about putting together last night for their first-round pick. How many man-hours they put into that.
Yep.
Not just in the last 3 or 4. I mean, they didn't just do this based off the combine and visits to franchises. I mean, this is scouting for the last couple of years, right? So you have to have that part of it. The other thing from a communication standpoint is you can't get lost in talking to 4 or 5 people and then making a decision on it. This stuff happens really fast in real time. So you better be organized and you better be communicating. I mean, this can't be, hey, we'll deal with that in the morning. In the morning may be too late. Next hour may be too late. So I think the organization and the communication part, by however means you lay it out, are the most important things that we're seeing in roster management right now.
Yeah, really good. Well said, Brent. When it comes to that portal, again, let's go back to the portal. 2 transfer wide receivers visiting the Vols next week. Brent, what can you tell us about them and the chance that they come to Tennessee?
Well, clearly Tennessee's looking for a receiver, okay, and they're trying to find another body, another person to go into that young receiver room. I think that you don't really want to get a guy who's of the same makeup or has the same resume of what you have. And what I mean by that is you don't want a second-year guy looking to burst on the scene. You want somebody who's established, who's got a little tread on the tires, if you will. BYU transfer Keelan Marin is supposed to be in this weekend. That's going to be a quick one. He's going to be in and out, probably a one-day visit. We will see. I mean, how much is he looking for, and what does that factor in from that standpoint? And then McNeese State's Jermichael Carter is another guy who's got some experience, not at the Power 4 level, obviously, but he does have experience, and I think that's a guy that Tennessee has interest in. He is supposed to visit early next week. The kid from San Jose State was supposed to visit this past week on Tuesday or Wednesday. He committed to Louisville and never made it here. So I think they want to add a receiver. Are they just going to add one to add one? I don't know about that. I think in the preference world, they want someone who has logged some snaps, because when you look at it, I mean, Chris Brazzell played, a decent amount last year, and I think Mike Matthews played 177 snaps, and after that, they don't have anybody really with any experience, so they would like an experienced guy there.
VolQuest's Brent Hubbs, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kalen, Will. Brent, last night, James Pierce Jr. goes to the Atlanta Falcons. They paid a king's ransom to come up and get him, giving away their first-round pick next season. What do you make of the fit for Atlanta for James Pierce Jr., a guy who maybe talent-wise is top 5 or 10 in this draft, but has some off-field questions that have been well documented throughout this process?
Well, I mean, the Falcons clearly did their research. They liked him at 15. I think they would have gone there at 15 if Walker had not been available. They were not going to pass up on Walker and the fact that he's a home state guy. I think they liked both of those guys. Tells you how much they really like James Pierce, but because of what they gave up to get back to get him. So putting a lot of investment, a lot of belief in James Pierce. James Pierce has all the talent in the world. James just got to go be mature every day, and that maturity starts today. I mean, you got to go get ready to go to work, and you got to understand you're at a different level of scrutiny. You got to understand the expectations. You got to understand what somebody has poured into you, how much they're investing in you, and you got to reward them. It's a business now. There's no longer the notion of, James has got all the talent in the world, but he's got to be a better pro. He has to be a better pro now. Mm-hmm. It's not 2 years from now. The timeline on being a better pro is ending. I mean, you have to produce in that way right now, and that's James Pierce's biggest challenge. And I think that James was not going to get out of the first round. I think that the Bills really liked him. I think there was a chance the Bills would have taken him. I think Buffalo was going to take whoever they had as the best defender on the board for them because they were going defense. They ended up going corner. I don't think they were locked into a corner. I think they wanted best defensive player, most impactful guy. I think they liked James Pierce a lot. He went up there for a top 30 visit. The Bengals were an interesting decision that they made. They were going pass rusher, and they had James in for a visit. They clearly were a little bit spooked, in my opinion. I shouldn't say clearly, but I believe they were spooked a little bit by some of the off-the-field things. So they went with a very unproven on-the-field player, and the Stewart kid out of Texas A&M. Remember this about the Bengals. They took a risk last year in the third round when they took Jermaine Burton. Burton's a guy who had off-the-field concerns and that type of thing. I don't know how well that's gone for the Bengals. Now, he wasn't going to play a lot anyway with that receiver room, but I don't know that everything has gone great there. And talking to some Bengals people, and there was a thought that Burton experience this past year might create some hesitancy in them taking a risk guy like James Pierce. But the Falcons clearly fell in love with him, and obviously giving up what they gave shows you how much that they fell in love with James Pierce.
Brent, I know the Titans met with Tennessee defensive lineman Omar Norman, one of the many Vols who now will be kind of open and their window opening to maybe get picked. Just how high of a ceiling does he have as a guy who was very productive percentage-wise when he was on the field, but maybe doesn't have the volume of snaps as many of his other peers in this class?
Yeah, and that doesn't bother me.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got to look and examine why does he not have the volume of snaps? I mean, was there some reason? Did he live in a doghouse? Was he a problem that caused that? Or was this just a part of the rotation that they had? I do think he can be more consistent downs 1 through 3, but he is a guy with quick twitch who can affect the quarterback on third down. There are moments he's played the run well. He plays in a system that's a very vertical-oriented system. They do not ask him to necessarily just hold a gap. It's very much play upfield. So you're looking for a defensive style that plays that way. The Titans have brought him in for a visit. I tell you, another team that's brought him in and seems to like him a lot too is Buffalo. And again, Buffalo's trying to upgrade on defense. So Buffalo sits at 56. Buffalo sits at 62 in the second round, which could be interesting to watch there. I think Omar Norman Lott is the next Vol who comes off the board. I think there's a real shot he comes off tonight.
Hey, real quick, anything of Arkansas and maybe Tennessee pursuing money from the Ilmaliavas or anybody else deciding to do this in collectives?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of business things that are really fascinating, and I don't have a business degree. I was lucky to get my communications degree. I did that because you didn't have to take math or business classes, Ramon. Somehow you just got to get through.
Amen.
All right? I was a get-through guy when I spent my 4 years at the University of Tennessee. But a couple of things. One, I think you're clearly seeing some collectives and particularly some schools trying to help the collectives with a little bit of a fight back and a little bit of a bite back on this deal. Not just on Madden's case, but I think everybody's watching that one. Like, where does that go? How aggressive is Arkansas ultimately going to be? Is this just, kind of big boy talk through the media? Are you really going to lawyer up and really go after this deal? I think that is a potential, I will say landmark, but kind of a marker for collectives that, okay, if they've done this, maybe follow suit, much the same way Tennessee moved on from a high-profile player. Are other schools now more willing to do that? If Arkansas produces and goes through with this, are more schools willing to do that as well? The other business side of it that's interesting, and Ross Dellinger, who I think does a fantastic job, had this yesterday. Kentucky is trying to go through potentially shifting their athletic department structure and move that into an LLC type deal where there's more people involved in the decision-making part of things from a financial standpoint in the athletics department. I can tell you there's a lot of schools around the country who are reading up on that this morning going, exactly how does that work? What's the benefit? Is it a detriment that you're bringing more people involved in this? Is it better that you have, some non-traditional college administrators who are going to be directly involved in making some financial decisions? That's an interesting thing that we're all going to try to get our hands on here over the next couple of weeks when Kentucky, that leaked out about Kentucky last night.
We cover it all with Brent Hubbs of VolQuest, Fridays at 7:20 here on your Moan, Kayla, and Will. Check out the War Room at VolQuest.com. The best inside info and best coverage of Tennessee athletics. Brent, great stuff. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it,
Brent.
I
Hubs.
appreciate y'all. Enjoy the draft tonight, and we'll talk next week.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
will. All right. There's Brent Hubbs with us this morning, brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. Coming up, ESPN covered the Travis Hunter trade as Cam Ward was walking to the podium to become a Tennessee Titan. We have our thoughts next.